And we're live. How's it going, everyone? Still working on the studio setup, and I figured I would just jump in and do a Q&A or an AMA. I'm not sure what's the difference, really. An AMA is a Q&A, right? But AMA just sounds cooler, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, so I'll be on live. I always plan to do about 30 minutes, but it ends up being about an hour. So let's take that for what it is. I'll probably be on here for 30 minutes. I almost might set an alarm even to just stop hard right at 30 minutes. So any questions you guys have, I'm here to answer them related to building software, related to building projects, making projects happen, anything we need to do. So something else that's kind of cool is I just used this thing to take an old Windows machine that was just sitting around, and I turned it into a Linux machine. And I'll be working on that soon for some projects. Oh, first question of the day, Dennis. How much do I bench? Probably more than you, Dennis. I don't know. It's been a while. Hey, man, how's it going? Hey, hello. What's up? Hey, hello. What are you guys working on? What are the projects that are happening? This Friday, I'm going to be talking to one of the co-founders of Turing Pie. We're going to do a live chat. I'm sure I'll be answering some questions from you guys as well when we're out there. So make sure you check it out. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I believe that's what it is. I'm going to be putting that on the schedule tomorrow, so it'll be a scheduled stream tomorrow. So check out for that. Hello. Hi. Yes, Dennis. Hey, River Fount from Brazil. Nice. Tejas. Hey, welcome back. I think I'm pronouncing your name right. Tell me if I am. Tejas, I'm saying it that way because that actually looks like a Spanish name, but Kumar, I'm not sure if you are Spanish or not. Mern stack forever. Hey, you win some, you lose some. I don't know if I agree with you, but that's okay. Hey, Claudia, what's up? Nice mic. You like this mic? Tommy, I'm actually going to get. I just bought a different mic. I've been really looking into making better content, and I think part of that will come with the audio. This Blue Yeti mic has served me well. And usually I don't have it in the frame, and I actually don't want the mic in the frame. Some people really like having it in the frame, but the next mic, if I can actually do it without it being in the frame, I totally will. But it's fun. I like it. You're working on diabetic blindness. What does that mean exactly? You started WebRGPC. Cool. Python, you're learning full with JavaScript. What's the best way to go? So if you know Python well, then build some projects with it. And if you start getting into web development with Python, like with Django or Flask or FastAPI, then it'd be a good time to learn JavaScript. Certainly you can use JavaScript in a lot of the same ways as Python. So that's why I think you should get to know Python pretty well so you can execute what you're trying to execute, and then you can then go ahead and do it later in JavaScript or something like that. Thank you. Day 12. Nice. Keep it up. It definitely ramps up quite a bit after day 15, I think. Day 16 is when it's like, then you'll be like, wow, this is actually kind of challenging. But you're going to learn a lot if you go through all those things. But I'm glad you are enjoying 30 days of Python. A lot of people say to truly understand programming, you need to know C. It's funny. Did you ask this yesterday? Because I feel like I answered this question. I don't agree with that, but that's because learning something like C is significantly more challenging. But what is the goal of programming? It's like to make a computer do something for you, right? So you don't have to know C to do that. And so to say truly understand programming on a deep level, sure, maybe. But there's probably a lot less people that know C really well, but a lot of people that actually program. So there's a lot of people that program and not necessarily very well. So that's actually a good thing. I think more people need to program. Think of it like writing a book, right? So there's a lot of people that can write. Like we all write. You're writing to me right now. A lot of people can write, but not everybody can write super well. So perhaps if you're trying to be the best of the best of the best programmer, then yeah, you'd probably end up learning C. But if you're trying to make applications and programming things that solve problems, you don't necessarily need to know C. Thank you. Hey, what's going on? What was your first source of income besides your income? Was it YouTube or freelancing? I don't actually make that much money from YouTube, directly from YouTube, that is. So I that's like side income to me right now. The vast majority of my income comes from my website, so codingforentrepreneurs.com. I have a bunch of courses and membership and all that on there. And then I have plenty of other streams that are similar to YouTube where I earn some stuff from that as well. But like, I mean, I always encourage everyone that's on my YouTube channel to go to codingforentrepreneurs.com and get a membership there, whether it's a monthly one, a yearly one, or a lifetime one. You will, if you put in the work, you will look back on that time very fondly, because it's going to change the course of how you know things. At least that's how I feel about it, because a number of people have had that same experience from codingforentrepreneurs.com. So that is the primary source of income. I have done freelancing before. I've had other jobs. I was a restaurant waiter. So I've definitely done all of those kinds of things too. So maybe that answers that question. I don't know. Hey, Umberto, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Do you have any ideas on how deep learning could help in manufacturing? Yeah, I have a lot of ideas. So if there's ever data, if there's a lot of data, deep learning can help. So in manufacturing, there's a lot of data that comes up, whether it's QC, quality control, or it's actually like training, right? So you're actually trying to train somebody on the manufacturing line, and you want to nudge them in the right direction. You can have a camera set up, not even that expensive of a camera, but a camera set up, constantly monitoring using something like OpenCV and maybe, or MoviePy, or a variety of other ways to actually extract the video, and then using deep learning on top of those videos. And that actually we could do that almost today, right? So like I could probably build something like that in a week or two. Maybe it's not perfectly production ready and the best solution possible, but we can do it actually pretty quick. And that's because of deep learning and a lot of the libraries like TensorFlow and PyTorch. I didn't ask a question, but I did ask AWS versus Azure. Yes, you did ask that. That's right. I think they're both really good, right? Like, I don't think, like, if you're a solo developer or freelancer, I don't think the question should be on which one is better for you. That question makes a big difference when you have a big team and you're going to be spending tens, 20 millions of dollars with them, right? So like someone like Netflix, if Google Cloud Platform or Azure came to Netflix with an amazing offer to leave AWS to go to Azure or GCP, they might do it, but that would be probably saving them potentially billions of dollars, would be the arguments there, right? So which one's better? I think they're all great. It's, I mean, some of them have features that other ones don't, and some of them are a little bit easier to learn and pick up than other areas. But overall, I think they're both really, really good. To reiterate what I most likely said to you yesterday, but I had a little bit more time to think about that. Dominic, hello, what's up? Is it possible to make a Django Next.js full stack web app? I don't think you need to combine Django and Next.js. So Django is a full-on web framework itself. Next.js is also a framework of some kind. I don't know Next.js that well, but I know that it's server-side rendering. So perhaps there's some sort of way to interact with them together. It's actually a good question. I should probably look into that a little bit more. But as far as my understanding right now, Next.js and Django do a lot of the exact same things. Although I prefer Django still. Hey, from Poland. Nice to meet you. Is it Jaku? Is that how I would pronounce your name? Or, yeah. Because I feel like the D and the first J are silent. And if that's the case, Jaku. Thank you, Claudio. Hey, what's going on? Big fan of mine. Thank you. I'm a big fan of yours. Thanks for coming out. Hey, Drax, what's up? Welcome back. How did I get into coding? That's a good question. So when I was in high school, I wanted like in Southern California, where I'm from, it's very popular to start a clothing company, like, putting logos on hats and stuff like that. And in high school, I was no different because I definitely wanted to be an entrepreneur. So that part came first. I wanted to own my own business to kind of control my own freedom. And a friend of mine and we were going to start a clothing company, or we actually did start one. And at the time it was like, hey, we need to get it on the internet. So I was lucky enough to get hooked up with Bobby Kim, or he goes by Bobby Hundreds now, the guy who started the Hundreds. And he's like, go buy a book and make your own website yourself. So that's what I did. And that was kind of the start of it. So HTML and CSS, although that's not technically programming, or at least I would make a case for that not being programming. That's what actually got me started with, which was a clothing company. But then that ended up turning into this long road that got me into actually programming. So it went HTML, CSS, WordPress, Shopify, and then actual full-on programming. In there, I maybe dabbled with JavaScript and PHP and stuff like that too, and Ruby on Rails and a few other things. But once I got really serious, it was after like kind of knowing a little bit of Shopify, which was, like 10 years now or so. Drax, you really enjoyed the Twitter API tutorial. Thank you. The one on 30 days of Python. I'm assuming that's the one you're referring to, because I also did a Tweet Me 2 tutorial, which is like a Twitter-like, thing. Upcoming Django YouTube channels. Like, do I know of Django YouTube channels that are coming up? Yeah, there's a few of them. Pipeline, I think, is one. He's got a few thousand subscribers at this point. I think he's pretty good. Code with Tommy, I'm pretty sure he comes on here a lot. I think he's done Django. Tommy, if you're on here, just let Good Vibes know, or Good Vines know. Good Vines, that's funny. Dennis Ivy, would you call someone who almost has 100,000 subscribers an upcoming Django tutorial? Probably not, but he's a good friend of mine. Mitch, Coding with Mitch, he's another one. There's so many people that cover all sorts of things related to Django. So if you just search Django, I'm sure you'll find some really good tutorials. But don't go off of the view count, right? Actually watch the tutorial yourself and see why that view count's correct one way or the other, right? So if you watch a tutorial and it's great, keep watching, because there are a lot of really good tutorials out there that might only have 500 views, but they're amazing, right? There's certain aspects of them that maybe they're not as clickable or whatever. So check that out. Is it possible to make a Django Flutter full stack Android app? Yes. So Flutter would be the front end. Django would be the app end. Or the back end rather. So Flutter would actually be the Android app. Django would not be in the Android app at all. It would be on the web. It's too early in Nigeria. Sorry, Mark. Hey, what's up? I think you were here yesterday. Welcome back. Like Yahoo. Oh, cool. Yahoo. Where did you say you're from again? Sorry that I said Jakku. I'm like thinking of Star Wars probably. And also that's how I read it. It's like that combo. But thanks, Yahoo. Appreciate it. Let's see. Can you explain in simple works what Redis is and Celery and why do we need them? Yeah, sure. So first I'll say, to go in more depth of this, my Time and Task 2 course on codingforentrepreneurs.com or cfe.sh goes into depth of these things. So if it's confusing at all, just go there and find Time and Tasks 2. That I think will help you a lot. So Celery is a way to queue up tasks and execute them. So they don't execute at once, but they can execute when you choose to execute them. Right? So it's a way to do asynchronous programming, but really it's a way to defer running a function of any kind, right? So you want to send an email. You don't want to send it right now. You want to send it in a week. You can use Celery for that. And the way Celery keeps track of all of those things is through a data store called Redis or RabbitMQ. So what these data stores do is they queue up messages in a key pair fashion. So if you're familiar with key pairs, key value pairs, they queue them up that way. And typically they are short-lived, as in whatever's in a Redis queue won't be there for that long. It's different than a database. A database, you kind of assume that data is going to stay there, unless, of course, it's deleted, but the vast majority of it is going to stay there. So Redis is just that queue. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you need some more clarification, but that's kind of it at the top level. What's the best way to build a multi-tenancy app in Django, like a SaaS app? So you don't actually have to use the concept of multi-tenant to actually build a SaaS application. You can, but you don't need to. So Django itself, you can associate different user data however you see fit. There's a lot of different ways on how to do that, which would build a SaaS app. But a multi-tenant app means that you actually have a new instance of Django running, and your top Django app is running that other instance and several other instances in there. So I actually don't recommend that approach with Django. It can be done, but it's not an easy solution of something that I can just tell you right here. I actually think there's a package for it, and it's definitely something that I've been saying for like 6 months, a year, that I need to spend more time on because I get this question fairly often. But thanks for that. Umberto, could I summarize more or less the approach I'm going to give to the Try Django 3.2 project, and if we're going to see an e-commerce course soon? So what am I going to do in Try Django 3.2? I was going to do Try Django 3.1, but 3.2 is months away. And it's an LTS, which means long-term support, which means it'll be supported well into, I think, Django 4. So what I want to do is I want to build an application that helps my family with meal planning. And I think this is a common thing that a lot of us have to deal with, and that is actually a way to schedule things based off of somewhat of a predictable schedule, as well as using OCR, so object character recognition, or rather optical character recognition. So actually taking pictures of recipes, pulling out those pictures, maybe use some regular expressions to actually parse out what's in that data, and then using that to start building a meal plan of some kind. Like if you need 3 onions for one recipe and 1 onion for another one. I don't know why I'm saying onions, but if you need that, it will automatically kind of give you a grocery list at the end. At least that's my intention for what Try Django 3.2 will be. I can't say for sure if it's going to be that. I'm going to be adjusting course once I actually get into that one, which I think will happen hopefully early April. Thanks for the question. You're about to start my Twitter tutorial and you saw it on live. Oh, cool. Nice. Welcome. It's a big one, so definitely make it happen. I think it's worth going through the whole thing. Just stick with it, even if it gets a little tough to stick with a 12+ hour tutorial. But I've done them myself. Like when I was learning, I definitely went through so many of the tutorials I can find. I did every single one that I could get my hands on. And the reason I think you should go through these really big ones is it gives you all of this context that you just won't get in one that's like an hour long. Even if you jump around to a bunch of projects that are an hour long, there's not a whole lot you can get. I go as in depth as you possibly can for that specific project, but also Twitter itself, or doing a tweet me like series, has its own set of challenges that other projects don't necessarily do, like an e-commerce one. Oh, I definitely, Umberto, sorry, I skipped your e-commerce stuff. Yes, I definitely am going to have a lot more of an e-commerce course soon. That's probably going to be at the back half of 2020, and it's going to be massive. It's going to be my biggest e-commerce course I've ever done, probably in the realm of 20 to 40 hours. I don't know exactly how much is left, but I'm going to be doing it a little bit different than the Twitter tutorial, where most of the sections are going to be broken off into their own self-contained sections, but they'll be building towards a much bigger project itself. So yeah. Oh, Umberto, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I just realized you just gave me a super chat to also ask that same question. I appreciate it. Is Ruby still useful to learn? Yeah, I think Ruby on Rails and Ruby Ruby on Rails is the framework that's written in Ruby, are both still definitely valuable, and a lot of people use them to this day. I don't know if their community is nearly as vibrant as it once was, but I do know that they have a very solid community. And I mean, really, with some of these programming languages, you need maybe like 1,000 developers that are active in it to have a great community, because there's like Discord servers, there's Slack channels, there's all sorts of places that you can get really good at some of these things without necessarily having a massive community. You know what I mean? Yeah, Danny, what's up, man? I swear, this guy he never sleeps. Like, he really doesn't. If you don't know Danny, check out his YouTube channel. Check out everything that he does. He and I talked a few weeks back. You can also check that out too. Could I explain in simple words? Oh, we just talked about that, buddy. Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking, Claudio. You're a Brazilian? Is that what you mean? Or an Brazilian? I've never heard of that. A Brazilian developer, and I've helped you a lot with some projects. Great. I'm glad to hear it. Igor? Claudio is crazy. And you know, I'm using StreamYard right now to do this one. That's why you can see the comments like this. That is all thanks to Danny. So shout out to Danny for that one too. I mean, obviously StreamYard as well. They have a great product. Is every database relationship not just many-to-many? No, that's not how they all work. This is fun that you guys are having conversations with each other in here. SQL jobs, indeed. Dex, what are some of the upcoming project ideas? Is Django always your main project base? It depends, actually. It depends on if it needs user authentication. I'll say this over and over again. But if I'm doing a machine learning application and I want that in production, I probably won't use Django as the base. I won't use Django as the web application to serve that machine learning framework. I'll probably use something like Fast API or Flask to do that. I've been leaning a lot more towards Fast API to serve those kinds of applications. So, yeah. But I mean, obviously, I use Django a lot. I also use Node.js and Electron and Express.js every once in a while. And I'm really interested in Adonis.js. So there are other kinds of frameworks out there that I'm definitely interested in. I just haven't spent enough time teaching them so you guys aren't aware of them or that I use them. You know? Anytime, Flea Boy. You want to remind me again, I haven't finished 30 days of Python yet. Yes, there's still one day remaining, that lingering day. I think what I'm actually going to end up doing is some sort of pipeline tutorial using PyPyR. I've been talking to the creator of it. It's a really cool thing. Basically, what you can do is you can take a YAML file or a JSON file, and you can feed it in this pipeline. And in that pipeline, you can have a bunch of different Python functions running that will be treating this document basically as code. It's kind of hard to explain without understanding all of those things, but I'm considering that for the 30th day. But I've really been at a loss as to what I should do for the 30th day without making it a 3-hour video or a 5-minute video. I gotta find some nice balance in between there. Or just like a thank you for watching. This is the last day. Have fun kind of video. You know what I mean? Tommy, there we go. He does Django tutorials. I am already so far behind. It's like, it's hard to keep up with these questions sometimes. I got to stop saying that because I say it almost every time I'm live. Is it possible to make a Django React single page SEO friendly blog or other website? Yes. So a couple things. React and Django, React can be rendered server-side, right? So if you do server-side rendering with React, that does help with the React side of things with SEO. However, your Django application can still render different values in any given view. So for example, on codingforentrepreneurs.com, what happens when they go to any page that's not the main index page, if you go directly to, let's say, the Tweet Me 2 project or the Time and Task 2 project, if you go directly to that link, Django still has a lot of the metadata on the template that then ends up rendering the React.js page. So then the Django side is still SEO friendly, very SEO friendly, made for SEO, whereas the React stuff doesn't really counteract those things. But again, server-side rendering would probably improve that a lot. I haven't spent enough time with it, like many tools, to say that for sure it's a better way than the method I've already set up. You know what I mean? All right. How hard is it to get clients as a freelancer because being a full stack developer? Any recommendations to start as a software developer freelancer and getting clients regularly? Yes, there's several recommendations I have for you here. Go to a job board and look for either part-time Django developers or like project-based Django developers. Now, the reason I say a job board is because they are actively looking to solve some sort of problem. And whatever that problem might be, you can look on the job board, see what that business might be, and literally solve their problem, send it to them and say, hey, here's what I thought your problem was based off of this job board. Spend a few hours doing this, send it to them. You might land contracts. You'll probably land contracts that way, or more likely to land contracts that way than just applying for the job or applying to get what it is they're trying to do. So I've definitely hired a number of freelancers when I posted something. I'm like, hey, I need this done. And the freelancer that hits me up and says, hey, I already started. Here's like, it's almost done. What's next? Right? That's usually how I approach it. The other thing is to also write articles that are related to what you're trying to accomplish with software, especially, and the type of businesses that you're trying to help. Right. So if you're trying to help every kind of business, it might be hard to be a freelancer. Like a really big tech company, if they hire freelancers, they probably hire them on a case-by-case basis, and potentially people they've already worked with. Like maybe they already worked at that business, or they worked with them a long time ago with freelancers. So big companies are a little bit harder to get in with. But a lot of the smaller businesses, especially right now, with a lot of these businesses trying to go online and stuff like that, you can do very little free work for them, proving value, and then asking for value in return in terms of being paid for it. The other thing is, if you do free stuff for businesses and you do it for a while and they help you out, or you help them out, and you literally don't expect anything in return, what you can ask them is say, hey, if you know other businesses or other business owners that need help with automating stuff or building software, I'm available. That's actually why I'm here, is to help you out, because I saw you needed it. But also I want to get my name out there so I actually get hired for jobs, not just do things for free. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we could talk about with getting money as a freelancer, or so much of it is about proving value and not asking for too much in return, right? Because what you want is you want to have so many people asking you to work on their project, then you can start turning people away. And that's when you can start turning up the cost it is to work with you, right? So like me, I don't take freelancing jobs at all. I don't need to. I make plenty of money with my courses and my training and stuff like that. So I'm good there. If I were to freelance, I also would not take like freelancing jobs that would be a couple $100, right? But if I was starting out, I would do that all the time. I would do pretty much any freelancing job that paid me almost anything. You know what I mean? Hey, the concept of a Django Rest Framework confuses me. I don't understand why you need it. This is the only case when you need a front-end framework with a Django backend. So if you want to build a better client, whether that's in your web application or with an app or a front-end framework, if you want to build a better client, what you need is a consistent manner of dealing with the client. Again, whether that's just some JavaScript that you need for like a like button or something like that on your front end in your standard Django application, or if you need, React or Angular to deal with it, or if you need an iOS app or an Android app, if you need any of those things, you want to start building what's called a REST API. So a REST API is a set of like standard methodology to exchange data between your client and your backend. And it does it in a way using authentication, so it's secure, but it's also in just kind of a standardized way that you get to decide. Django Rest Framework comes in and helps you design that standardized way for your own project. Do you need Django Rest Framework? No, you don't need it. You can absolutely do all of these things with Django itself. In my course, REST API on cfe.sh, there's courses there. It's a pretty big course. It's called REST API, and that one in particular shows you how to build a REST API from pure Django, and then why specifically with code you need the Django Rest Framework. So hopefully that solves your answer, Abu. How'd you go about setting up a multi-page app for React? Like routing different URLs? Is that what you mean by a multi-page app? The year is 2021, not 2020 anymore. Yes, that is correct. Did I say 2020? Oops. Hey, are you talking about your profile picture? Man, I can't believe it's so weird to think that 2020 is like losing Kobe. It has been completely overshadowed, understandably why, but it's like that was such a rough start to 2020. You're following my Django tutorial and you notice CSS rules are not syntax highlighted in your Django project. Any way to solve this? Are you using VS Code or Sublime Text? There's all sorts of plugins for either one to highlight your CSS. Danny. Yes, now I'm 20 minutes behind. So master's degree in CS worth it? Probably. You'll learn a lot, I think. Is it going to be the most relevant like job placement type things? Not necessarily. Do you need that to be really, really good in computer science? No. But it can shortcut the way there for so many people, right? And it's just like a structured methodology to do it. But if you really want to know computer science, there should be nothing stopping you from doing that. And a lot of people say, oh, I need a degree to be really good at anything, which is not true. Literally anything can be learned without a degree, right? And you could be really, really good at it. Some degrees, like let's say a doctor or a surgeon specifically, they probably should have those degrees to prove to everyone else that they actually know this stuff in a academic, rigorous manner. Computer science doesn't necessarily need that to prove that you know what you know. But I think it'd be worth it. Hey, Raul. What's up? Okay. Hey, thank you. It's good to be back. It's been a little while. Working as a dev in big tech versus freelancing. The question is, do you want to be told pretty much everything that you do for work, or do you want to be working with a variety of companies and really having a lot more input on how things should be executed? I can't say for sure that big tech's always like this, but Google has thousands of developers. What are they all doing all the time, right? They're certainly not all working on the search engine. They're certainly not all working on little projects, but they definitely have things dictated to them a lot more than a freelancer would. And I would imagine a entry level at any big tech company is not going to be having input with a client on like, I don't know if you should do it that way type of thing, like you would freelancing. So it kind of depends on what you want there. Personally, I would go the freelancing route because you have a lot more flexibility. There's a lot more risk, but the flexibility is huge, right? So if you're freelancing, especially now with COVID and all that, you could probably freelance and work anywhere in the world and do that for a very long time going forward. We're a big tech firm. Maybe you could do that, work remotely now, but maybe not for that long. But also the fact that you are reliant on one source of income. So this is the other thing. With a big tech job or with any job, one single job, if your boss no longer likes you anymore, you might not have that job anymore. But freelancing, if you have 10 clients and one client leaves, you still have 9 other clients. You still have something going on. Obviously, if you lose all 10 of your clients, then you're not in great shape. Or if all 10 of them don't need something from you right now. I mean, there's a lot of potential downside with a freelancer because you also need to get those 10 people or 10 businesses. But once you have them, all things being equal, I pick freelancing all day, every day. Can I make a video on how to handle user registration like I did in e-commerce and REST API, how to handle tokens and whatnot? I've done this a number of times in a number of different places. Tweet Me Too, I think, handles this pretty well. So check out that series. It's not exactly what you're looking for, but it does handle user authentication with the REST API. At what point do you consider yourself a Django expert? I don't know, because I'm still learning about Django myself. Right, I've been learning a long time, but I also like all sorts of other things, other projects. I actually feel like, when should you be considered a professional Django developer? Like, you should be able to get paid, is when you can build an entire project from scratch, and you know how to do it, and you know how to make something that has very few bugs and it's pretty resilient. That I think would be, now you are ready to be considered a professional Django developer. But I would imagine even some of the Django core development team, they're probably still learning things about Django that maybe they didn't know before or something like that. Maybe not. I don't know. I would love to hear from them if they know that. Mark, do I earn more by doing courses than building actual products coding? Mark, I actually build all of codingforentrepreneurs.com. So that is a product, and that is how I earn money, and sure, through the courses. So it's hard to say, like, I guess you could make the case that it's mainly because of the courses, not because of the website, not because of the actual performance of the application. But it's kind of like asking Netflix, does Netflix make money because they have all of the content, or is it because they have the infrastructure to display the content? I don't know, right? Like, I mean, when Netflix first came out, it's probably more about both things. And that's actually how I feel about what I do anyway. But I think like, really objectively looking at it, it's probably I make more from teaching than I do from building actual products at this point. But a big part of that is because that's where my focus is, right? So the vast majority of my focus is researching some cool stuff, building all sorts of things, and then turning that into a class so people can learn from what I've learned. But again, like, I'm still researching and building things specifically for codingforentrepreneurs.com. And I try all sorts of projects otherwise all the time too, because I think that's important for my own sanity. But also, I think the other part is some projects need years to be successful. And sometimes I lose interest in making those things happen. Whereas teaching, it's like very natural for me. It's a nice challenge. So it's a bit different. I could talk about that for a while, obviously. How do you interact with SQL databases outside of Django? Yeah, so you don't need Python at all. That's including SQL Alchemy to use SQL databases. SQL has its own language that you can write SQL commands to work with those databases, regardless of Python or Ruby or PHP. So you can go directly into the SQL database itself to do it, and it's probably worth learning. I would say maybe not SQL Alchemy, but raw SQL statements inside of a SQL database, like actually logging into that database, would be a good idea to spend some time with. And you can learn those commands from Django and SQL Alchemy. So Django and the Django debug toolbar, and there's a few others, you can see what the raw SQL commands are coming through, and you can try those things out yourself too. View with Django or React with Django, it doesn't matter. Pick one and go for it. They're both great, or all of those are great. Any Libra, I don't know what that is. Humberto, thank you. A few minutes late on this one. Sorry about that. StreamYard doesn't show super chats. It highlights them, but it doesn't show them like on top of any of the other ones. It's still in order. Last one. Have you ever thought about being a code mentor? I mean, like giving custom classes with Zoom or something like that. I have thought about this, Humberto, and I'm considering doing it, but the challenge is timing, right? So timing for myself to actually make a couple hours a week specifically for this stuff, or more than that. But the other thing is the cost of me doing this for a small number of people means that a bigger number of people do not have access to it. Right. So like if I'm in other words, if I'm doing a Zoom class, I am not producing content for codingforentrepreneurs.com or YouTube. So it's kind of tricky on what it is should be. But at the same time, there's individuals like yourself who are willing and able to invest the time, effort, and energy to be in a class like that maybe I need to work with some of you guys. So I'm definitely all for that if we can find some sort of happy balance with it. I actually have found, though, also teaching classes live, like you may have seen with my Django Bootcamp, it's just like something about it. I'm just not as good live as I am once I actually produce a polished content and then do talks like this, right? So the reason I think that is because the way I actually produce content is I don't build a script. I don't have all these things that I'm specifically going to say. Instead, I have an outline of what I want to do. And each time I work on that outline, I kind of think of the title of the next lesson or the next section, and I just go and do it, whereas live classes, especially when you're like planning on 12 weeks or 4 weeks even, you kind of have to pre-plan exactly what it is that you're going to be talking about in these classes. But unfortunately, just like these Q&As or these AMAs, fortunately and unfortunately, what happens is then you get questions that start to divert it everywhere, and then it's kind of hard to stay on course. So I guess the tricky thing for me is trying to figure out a nice balance between all of those things. And what would be a reasonable price to charge people to join something like that, because I definitely could not do it for free. Zeke, thank you. Harrison over at Syntax, he's one of my favorite YouTubers as well. I really admire like a lot of the things that he's done, and I think he just hit 1 million subscribers. I think he's one of a handful of programming teachers that are at the 1 million subscriber mark. But he is just so matter of fact about doing things, and you can tell he has a good time doing it, which is something I appreciate, and I try to emulate as well. It's not always easy, but sometimes. Traverser Media, Brad, yeah, he says freelancing has many benefits. It's also very hard to start. Yeah, I agree with that. Anything good is hard to start. Anything good is hard to accomplish, right? So if it's worthwhile, it's going to be challenging. Oh, fire. Didn't want that ringing in the mic. That's another thing with live events. I'm sure you've seen this in other live events. You get these things where it's like you didn't anticipate that happening, and it happens, and you know what? Deal with it. Okay. So it really depends on what it is that you're after as far as freelancing is concerned, right? If you want the freedom to pick and choose work that you want to work on, freelancing is obviously the way to go. If you want stability, then maybe working on a team is the way to start, or the way to go as well. But the thing is, anything good that you really want is going to be challenging. So even if you want to work at the best company in the world, like just because you get a job there doesn't mean that that job's not going to be incredibly difficult and incredibly demanding on your time, right? I'm sure you may have read about this guy that worked at Google. I think it was a guy. Pretty sure it was a guy that worked at Google. He bought a moving truck, which like basically has no windows in the back, and he lived in the parking lot of Google. Like literally, he lived in there. His bed was in there. He'd go in Google and shower in there. That's what he did. There's just like a cultural of demand of doing that. Freelancing, sure, it's on you. I'm sure there's probably freelancing groups where you can probably throw each other a bone once in a while. If there's not, there definitely should be. And if you know of one, like a Discord that has all these freelancer stuff, let me know. I'd love to kind of ping some of these questions towards people. Like a code freelancers Discord. I'm on a few Discords that I barely interact with, but it's cool to know if there's one that exists so I can interact if I need to. Where should you start learning how to program? Right on my channel, 30 Days of Python. Check that one out. It's a good place to start, I think. What is on your learning list? My learning list. Good question. Probabilistic Deep Learning is a good book so far. This one's a little bit further out there. Math for Programmers. I just so happen to have these books here right in front of me. This is probably one of my favorite books there is. Deep Reinforcement Learning by Andrew Trask. So a lot of things related to machine learning is like the most immediate things that I'm learning, as you can probably guess by what I just showed you. And then beyond that, I want electrical engineering, more networking, so system architecture and stuff like that, and mechanical engineering. I want to build physical things eventually. Yeah. Django Raspberry Pi, have I done any projects with these two? Yes, I have. I did a series called Home Baked a few years back doing that specifically. But I have a lot more interest. Sometimes not. Is it working? Can you guys hear me? I think I might have lost you. Is it working? Man, that's a bummer. So StreamYard seems like it may have failed. Maybe not. Maybe it is working. The average income as a freelancer, I have no clue. Not a clue. Some freelancers make $500K a year. Some make $100 a year. You know what I mean? Is the M1 Mac good for Python development? Absolutely. I probably need to review those things, but we'll see. We need that. You need that. Okay, go to, I'm going to tell you where to go. Go to this link right here. If you have project ideas that you want to see, upvote, share them there. That's the best place to do it always, whether you are a member of Coding for Entrepreneurs or not. Cool, it's working. Great. Yeah, cut off for me too. Although my internet, everything's good over here. But yeah. Enzo, what's up? Any tutorials for scaling Django Rest Framework, like cache implementation, rate limit and throttling, and also writing test case mentioned for specific things. So caching can be a fairly complex topic, but you can use Redis cache and Django, and it actually does a lot of the work for you. You just have to know when to cache lookups and when not to. So that's probably a good suggestion. Please add it to that link that I just mentioned. I think I might have skipped a few. Sorry about that. And yeah. What is oh, cool. How does your go-to production setup look like? That's a good question. It changes. It's probably something I need to make a tutorial about sooner or later. And it looks like Tech with Tim already does. So Tim already has one. Cool, guys. So I'm probably going to answer like a couple more questions, then I'm going to hop off. Yeah, but thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. I do enjoy doing these things. And I can't say I'll continuously do them every day. I've done now 3 in a row before anything else as far as content's concerned. But a big part of the reason for that is because I've changed my studio setup a bit. I actually much prefer this setup to what I used to have. I'm trying to spend a lot more energy and effort making a really compelling work environment so that when I do record, I feel really good doing it, just sitting down even, you know? You like the dark background? Yeah, I like it too. And it's really just like the amazing thing about cinematography and lighting is how much lights make a difference, right? So if I look back there, it's not really that dark because there's a light here and there's a light here. But what you see is it's just nice and dark because of how the lights bounce off each things and all that, which is pretty cool. The flag behind me, oh, you can see that. So I have a bike and a trailer for my kids to sit in. That is the bike trailer. I'm literally in my garage. That's my studio, is my garage. So my kids sit in that bike trailer, and that's what that flag is. It's probably a little distracting. It's just an orange flag to alert drivers. PyCharm, pros and cons. I think the biggest con of it is it's expensive, right? I think it's like $200 or something like that per year. I haven't really used it much because of that reason. I'm like, VS Code is amazing. And then Sublime Text had a free version that was amazing. PyCharm, I think, was a big program like maybe 6 years ago. It's not so much anymore. And I think JetBrains, the producers of it, just had a big hack or leak or something like that happen. So maybe that's another thing to consider. Where VS Code, it's produced by Microsoft, and so far it's been amazing. So I really, really like VS Code. I've also talked to their Python team. I think they're doing a lot of interesting things for programmers in general, for all kinds of languages. PyCharm seems to be a little bit more niche and more geared towards Python developers, which is fine. But I haven't used it enough to be like, oh yeah, you definitely need to use this. So I don't have a lot of pros for it, in other words. Okay, so you heard Django isn't really that good at making multiple requests from different databases at the same time. Adding some ML with that, do you really recommend Django? So how often are you looking up on different databases? Are you talking about different database tables or different databases, right? So different databases themselves, well, the query efficiency is going to be how you form your query anyway. I think it can handle those things pretty well. When you add machine learning into things, yeah, I don't think Django is the place to host your machine learning applications. I think you should host them on a microservice using Flask and literally just host your models there. Django can still manage a lot of that stuff. But I don't know of like a great alternative unless you don't need user authentication. If you don't need user authentication, then something like FastAPI is perfect for that. I talked about this yesterday in the live stream. So if you want more details on that, check that out. Yeah. You like Kite and VS Code. Kite with VS Code. Oh yes. Kite is the AI completion thing. I actually found that Kite was clogging up my machine too much. How about you? Have you seen that? ZDAX? I did talk to some of their team and I was like, hey, this actually looks like a pretty cool tool. I can't wait until AI is helping me write code. You know, how cool is that going to be when I like can say just generally, hey, here are a few things that I want, and it makes it. That's going to be really cool. So I thought Kite might be that, but I'm not sure if it's there yet. Maybe in the future. I actually think Kite, I think they should build their own editor, their own text editor, and just make it amazing. That's what I think. Because then they could actually make an editor that's incredibly efficient that works already with their machine learning models and stuff. So how do you implement data sources from non-ORM sources like external APIs in Django? You can use Python requests and do requests that way. And if you need to cache things, you can still cache things as well. So that's what I do is use Python requests or AIO HTTP for asynchronous requests. But I don't do that nearly as much. Hey, we delegations, dependency injection, interfaces kind of stuff in Django. A lot of those things you do not need to do. Are you coming from a Java background? Cool. Good stuff. Oh, yeah. Mike Krieger speaks about using data. Facile, can you tweet me this? I definitely want to check it out. Here's my Twitter handle. Or it's not my handle. My handle is joincfe sh. Or joincfe, rather. So that's my Twitter handle. If you can hit me up, I would love to take a look at that link that you just mentioned about the CTO of Instagram, because that would be cool to check out for myself. Cool. Favorite extensions for VS Code? Probably the remote connector for Docker. That's like definitely one of them. The Python extension, I need to spend a lot more time upping my extension game on VS Code. The VS Code Django extensions aren't, I wouldn't say they're great, but a big reason I don't use extensions a lot is because when I'm teaching something, I don't want to overwhelm newer students with all of these extra things they might need on their text editor. I'd rather just focus on the content. So me, myself, I actually kind of hamper the way I code specifically so I don't get into like shortcut habits too much, so that those don't carry over into my tutorials, you know? You came back to code after a while with some ABM applications. What's ABM? I'm not familiar with that. And single page websites. What do you recommend to code a side project to keep the code grind? I think you need to find a problem that you want to solve, right? So even if that's like monitoring car prices for a car you want to buy, or monitoring stock prices, or I think a lot of it's like monitoring things. That's like a cool, I think, gateway drug into doing a lot more code side projects. I mean, if you don't have an idea for something, then go do my Tweet Me To series. It shows you how to build something that's like Twitter. So at the very least, you build something that's fairly familiar, and you'll learn a lot while doing it. And try to do, I don't know, half an hour a day, an hour a day. Just like set aside that time and just keep going. Because the thing with code is the skills stack exponentially. Each hour you spend will end up saving you like 20, 30 hours in the future, because you can automate all sorts of things, right? Like if you're familiar with CD Baby, if you're not, definitely check it out. Derek Sivers in particular, he wrote all of the code for that for like a decade. And this is like 15 years ago now. And he was the solo developer for it, and it extended his like capabilities, and it helped so many people with that application, which is like so cool to think that's something that helped a lot of independent musicians way back in the day sell their stuff online. And that was from one developer doing this one project and using code in a way that extended their ideas and could run 24/7. That's like one of the things I love about code, is that ability. Cool. Well, thanks so much for everyone for watching. A lot of good questions, really good discussion. If you're one of those people who want more of a live Zoom type class where like maybe 15 of us or 10 of us could get together, let me know. I'm also considering reviewing some different projects and like actual products that you might use in your projects. But I'm not so convinced on something that I should be spending my time doing that at this point. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. I will chat with you soon. So make sure you hit that bell if you want to see the next live one come out. Anyways, take care.